Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder of Mulberries Garment Care, Dan Miller. But first, I'd like to reintroduce my co-host again today, my buddy Kirk Bowyer of Mini Athletics. Kirk, how are you?
Oh, I'm really good. I'm great, actually, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing great. Kirk, I'm already I'm on edge here because every episode we do, you're going to throw some obscure American-British duo that I'm not going to understand.
Right, here we go. So that we have this tradition where I give Frank a bit of a challenge. And what I love about this challenge is it's all about American and British collaborations. So we've done music, we've done sport, we even did film, and now Frank, I feel as though you're going to be fantastic at this. It's business. Okay. So can you name, I'm going to give you one. Steve Jobs and Sir Johnny Ive worked together to create the iPhone. I mean, is there a better combination and a better product?
There is not. That's as good as it gets.
I like it.
You know what? That is amazing. Before we bring Dan onto the show, here are 3 things you're going to learn on today's episode. Number 1, why he saw a massive opportunity to bring best practices to the laundry care industry. Second, what led Dan to quitting his career during the Great Recession to starting this business. And finally, how his regional multi-unit model creates faster brand expansion. All right, well, without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Dan Miller, to the show. Dan, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. I love the show.
Oh, well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Dan, all right, so Mulberries Garment Care. This is the first of 200 plus founders I've interviewed. This is the first dry cleaning franchisor I have interviewed.
Is it really? What an honor.
It is.
Thanks for having me.
It is. So I want to hear all about this because you're not like the average, dry cleaning business, but you come from a consulting career. So I kind of would like to hear sort of the backstory on what even led you to founding Mulberries.
Yeah. So before I started Mulberries, I was a management consultant at McKinsey, and I did a lot of work in the consumer sector. And one of the things that's phenomenal about that job is you essentially get to see the best practices of all the best consumer companies in the world. And you're sort of filing them in the back of your mind thinking, I wonder if there's something I can do with this. And at the same time, I was a big dry cleaning laundry customer. And so I was going into these dry cleaners and just having miserable experiences, lost shirts. I remember once I got a shirt that looked like it had been ravaged by a bear and just hung on a hanger. Guys smoking out front, putting the butt out, walking me in, smells like chemicals. I mean, we've all had those experiences.
Yes, right? We have.
And so, one day it just hit me that, and this is not an exaggeration, every single thing that we thought of as best practice in consumer, whether it was, having a brand people identify with, having a world-class customer experience, making things convenient, focusing on sustainability, everything you think of as sort of leading edge consumer experience was missing from the dry cleaning and laundry industry, right? Clothes were being cleaned in toxic chemicals. I remember I went to my dry cleaner, they were closed at like 5 p.m. It was like, wait, I have to leave work early to get to my, those sorts of things. And so I thought, if you could bring sort of the world-class customer experience of, Whole Foods or, pick your favorite vendor to dry cleaning and laundry, then you'd have a substantial advantage on the competition. And then, of course, if you could continue to innovate on that, that gap in terms of what your customers are feeling is going to get bigger and bigger to the point where they never want to go back to the old-fashioned dry cleaner.
Sure. Did you have any experience with the dry cleaning business?
Zero.
Other than you were a ticked off customer that said, this is ridiculous?
I was a pissed off customer who had enough and was said, somebody's got to do it. I'm going to do it. And I took a leave of absence from McKinsey and went to dry cleaning school, which is in Maryland, actually. There's a dry cleaning university in Maryland. Yep. And I went to dry cleaning school and learned, everything there was to know about dry cleaning.
That's about as motivated as I've ever heard anybody as a consumer to be that pissed off.
Yes.
That's it. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and I'm starting the business.
That's
people all suck.
That's exactly what happened. Even to this day, have you ever had the experience where you have wire hangers in your closet and they kind of tangle up on each other as you're pulling them out?
Yeah. They always do. Okay. It's not sometimes. It's an always.
So simple. That's a simple example. When I started Mulberries, one of the first things we did is I said, we're going to have wood hangers and we'll figure out how to make it work. And so one of the things that differentiates us is you get your clothes back on wood hangers.
I love it. All right. So when you first started out, this is back in 2009, right?
Yep.
So you finish dry cleaning school.
Yep.
You leave 2009, you're starting your business.
Yes.
What is life like when you're this brand new business owner and is it called Mulberries at the time?
Yep, it was called Mulberries. I started out with sort of dipping a toe in the water. I started out with just a delivery route. I didn't even have a retail store because I sort of had this idea and I thought there was something there, but I also was humble enough to know that maybe I was just a crazy pissed off consumer and nobody else wanted this. And so I started off with just the delivery route and but sustainable cleaning facility, wood hangers, so on and so forth. You could do pickup on the website, which at the time was novel. And it sort of took off like a shot from there. And
really?
I had more clothes than I could clean and deliver and right away realize, okay, there's something here. I haven't got it figured out yet, but people are interested in this.
You knew you were onto something even back then, right away.
Exactly.
Now, wait a second. This is we're in the throes of the Great Recession too at this point in time. It's not like there's a lot, there's a lot of people who are home, unemployed, no longer needing that nice, crisp collared shirt.
I'm so glad you said that because that was one of the most terrifying things about it was I literally quit my job. And then right when I was starting Mulberries, the Great Recession happened. And I thought, this is a nightmare. But that's actually what gave me so much confidence was I thought if I'm getting traction now, it's only going to get better. But funny story on that, you were asking about how it started out. I'll never forget this. And I think this is probably good entrepreneurial guidance for anybody. But at my consulting job, obviously it was a relatively cush job, right? You're getting expense accounts, nice dinners and whatnot. And I remember it was February in Minnesota. That's where I started the company. And we were overwhelmed with clothes. And so I'm helping press the clothes and then I'm loading the van. It's like 5:30 in the morning, February, -20 outside. And I'm carrying 2 loads of hangers in my hands like this. And I'm walking out to the van and I slip on the ice and my hands are full, right? So head drops back, smack my head on the icy pavement. And I'm laying there, pitch black, -20 on the ground. And I thought, what have I done with my life, right? And but I think the beauty of that is sort of every entrepreneur has that moment, right? But you kind of have that choice of like, am I going to quit? Or am I going to keep going? And and I kept going, and from there it was sort of it all got better from there.
Wow, we've all had that moment where we're pushed to the brink of what did I do? And if you keep just pushing through, most people quit. That's what makes us different.
Yep. It's the persistence, right?
It is the persistence again and again. I cannot tell you the amount of, whether it's franchisors or franchisees, to me, you have to be hungry. If you don't have that hunger, it's easy to quit and you have to love what you do. Like you had this passion. Somehow you took being pissed off to like a whole nother level, man,
yes.
Where like you built a business off of being really not happy with the service that, you let it carry through. Most of us kind of get over it.
Right. Right.
Held on.
Maybe that should be our new slogan, Mulberries, we're pissed off.
By the way, what's the backstory on the name?
So backstory on the name was I wanted something that sort of had a simultaneous feel of almost, your sort of old-fashioned British tailor shop, and
Okay.
also a connotation of something natural. And um and I was in New York and walking by Mulberry Street in New York, and I thought that's sort of Mulberry Street has sort of a nice name, and I believe there's a Mulberry Street in London as well. And then I was just sort of looking up things about mulberries, and it turns out that a mulberry stain is actually very difficult to get out. And I thought, well, that's good enough for me. And so mulberries it was.
Interesting. Kirk, your ears perked up when you heard the UK.
I was going to say, Frank, can you name a dry cleaners that has a British and American collaboration to it, name to it? It's Mulberries. It's here.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we can tie it all together.
It's a
Exactly.
it's a really great story. And I love how premium so I've done some research.
Yeah.
I've looked at the website, I looked at the franchising site, and I've watched the video. I've watched the video. And I'm just super impressed with how premium the whole thing is, and the Union press machine. I mean, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. It kind of presses and blows up the sleeves, and so it seems like it's really innovative. Everything you do, it seems quite innovative.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So that was one of the things that, you remember I was talking about sort of best practices from consumer businesses. One of the things that I really noticed was missing from the dry cleaning and laundry industry was, technological advancement, right? At the end of the day, this is a logistics business, right? You're taking clothes, you're cleaning them, and you're moving them. And so I thought, how can we bring that next level technology to the dry cleaning laundry industry? And so we've done that both on the consumer side, right, with our mobile app where you can schedule a pickup. You can literally track your order, see where it is in the process, versus most dry cleaners, you walk in, God only knows when that clothing's coming back. But then we also have like an, automated pressing and assembly system. So all your clothing is barcoded and then sorted through an automated conveyor system. So, which of course drastically reduces the likelihood of garments being lost or misplaced or delayed.
And from a franchising perspective, I guess it means you need less staff.
It's I think great on multiple levels from the franchising perspective. Number one, need less staff. Number two, it's just less complexity, right? I mean, one of the challenges with dry cleaning laundry in the old days is it was so manual that, I mean, easy to lose stuff, right? If you have no ability to track things, it's just difficult. Whereas, our perspective, I'm sure yours as well, is our job is to make things as easy for the franchisees as humanly possible, right? We want them to succeed, so let's give them the tools to succeed.
Absolutely. And so you started the company in 2009.
Yep.
You're franchised 3 years later in 2012. If I have the stats right, you guys are just about to open your 15th location.
Yep.
And you're in 4 states, right? California, Minnesota, Virginia, and DC.
Yep.
Ultimately, what made you decide to franchise? You didn't come from a franchise background, right? I mean, you came from the consumer side of management consulting, but how did franchising come to be?
Honestly, the biggest thing for us with franchising was that we realized, and I'm actually very curious on your perspective on this, but we realized that at the core of what makes a person successful in the dry cleaning laundry business is the motivation of the owner. So you can have obviously like all the great tools and technologies and whatnot, but if you don't have that owner who's really dedicated to providing that next level experience, right? Where somebody walks in the door and they know their name, right? And they genuinely care about what that person's going through, then something's going to be missing, no matter how kind of nice a manual you've got. And so that was really the driving force. And so once we understood that, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, because ultimately you're in the customer experience business. Dry cleaning just happens to be the product, the service that you're providing. I mean,
exactly.
But we could apply all of everything you offer, that client experience, we could apply that to any business. So the owners you're looking for are folks that want to be in the customer service business, and they want to provide something that's unique that other people just can't deliver, such as the the company that, obviously motivated you to start your business.
Exactly. And I think it's especially the case in the garment care business because people really care about their clothes. I mean, their clothes are personal to them, right? I mean, this is somebody's tuxedo they're wearing to a wedding, or a suit for their job. I mean, it's important. So you can't
their favorite shirt, or something that maybe something that's been passed on or something. You never know.
Exactly.
There's a story behind each one of these garments. It's not just an article of clothing.
Correct. And so if you half-ass it, right, it's not going to land. And so that's where I think having great franchisees who get that and generally understand what the customer experience is all about, that's who's going to be successful.
What about in terms of the number of franchises you have? You've got the 14, soon to be 15 locations by the time this airs. One of the most common questions I get, Dan, from founders that are starting out is, how do I even find franchisees? They're lost among the 4,000 brands out there. How did you find your first dozen? Where did they come from?
A combination. Our model is a little different. We, in general, do franchisees more at a regional level as opposed to individual store level. So I'll just give you one example. So like our Minnesota franchisee is one franchisee and he serves the entire region. And he, believe it or not, started as a customer. And he said, I love this. I want to do this. And, the rest is history. And I would say that's a huge part of our background, is people who come to a Mulberries, visit, and then want to take it to where they live. But again, that's unusual, right? Because what we do is we have a central cleaning facility, and then we have the stores are sort of nodes around that. So it's easier if the person's sort of a regional franchisee versus a one store owner, because otherwise they're not part of that production process.
So this really is a multi-unit franchise business right from the onset.
Yep, exactly.
And so how many stores do I typically own, or how many retail locations do I typically open?
Yep. So the ideal is you start with a sort of what we call like a flagship store, right? So you'd start with a store that's a cleaning facility but has a front of house. Okay. And then start with that and a delivery route. And then you get that up and running, and now you add these nodes, right? So you add what we call drop stores, where it's a and each, a major metropolitan area, obviously depends a little on the region, but your sort of mid-sized American city is going to support 10 to 15 Mulberries. And so you start with one and then just steady build from there.
How big is a territory typically then?
Honestly, it's a metro. So, for example, if we went to Kansas City, it would be Kansas City.
Okay. So if you are that regional person, you're getting that whole market.
Correct. I mean, obviously you're on a development timeline, right? You have to open stores at a certain pace. But yes, assuming you stick to the pace, yes.
Kirk, actually, Dan's business is very similar to our experience. Kirk and I have been in the kids sports space. The secret to both of our businesses is opening multiple locations and because we know that people only drive so far.
Yeah.
Yep. And so instead of us opening a facility, we have people coming to our multiple locations, and we know that's how you win. You win by having that, a critical mass of multiple venues.
Yes. And
so you essentially done the same thing in the garment care business. Yeah,
exactly.
I could love Mulberries to death, but I'm not going to drive 30 minutes to the closest Mulberries. I'll deal with the guy putting out the cigarette butt and the chemicals.
Exactly.
Before I'm driving, 45 minutes.
Exactly.
But it's brilliant. These opening up these nodes, as you call them, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That was one of the things we found right away. Is it's so funny you say that about the cigarette butt guy, but like it's true. I mean, convenience at the end of the day is the number one choice, and everything comes out of that, right? So for us, it was like, let's be close, because if we're close, then the quality and the sustainability and the technology is going to win.
Right. Okay. So with that said, we know that the name of the game to win at this is having multiple locations. Yep. To serve these customers that are ultimately all going to end up back at the mothership, all these clothes that are getting cleaned, right? what is the type of person, besides making sure they have a great client experience, who is the kind of person you need as a franchisee that's going to really thrive in your system? Because this is really all about expansion.
Yep, absolutely. So for us, there's people who come from, you know, a corporate background where they've been in either operations or in customer facing spaces, right? So people who have, you know, been sales executives, for example, or operations executives. That's really a good spot for us, because those are people who are obviously very comfortable with customer experience. You know, somebody who's been in hotels, right? They understand this is what we have to deliver as an experience, right? But then the operations side is also very helpful, because, as I mentioned, this is a logistics business, right? And so if somebody who understands, you know, somebody who was an executive or involved in some way in like FedEx or UPS or something like that, it's a great business for them, right? Because at the end of the day, these are packages. They're very important packages, but they're being moved around. So that's sort of the ideal profile, is somebody who's, you know, worked in that kind of capacity, but is ready to go out on their own and bring all their knowledge now into a new space.
Dan, how do you ensure that your franchisees are in line with your blueprint? You know, because I've seen the videos and it looks such a fantastic place. You have all of these different innovative things that we've talked about. How do you make sure that they are in line with everything that you believe in? Sustainability, as an example. How do you make sure they are sustainable?
Yeah. So I'd say a few things. So number one, obviously, we're fanatical about our training materials and manuals. We use a software called Trainual, which I don't know if you guys have ever used, but it's phenomenal. It's sort of an automated training system where you literally have to pass quizzes to get through the process, which I think it really kind of forces that baseline level of compliance, right? But then I think the other big thing is for us is the cultural piece. So we have this thing we call the customer experience map in our stores, and it's sort of this big wall map, and it literally shows every touch point that the customer has with us, what we want them to feel. So from if the customer picks up, so and literally when I say that, I mean, it starts with they search for dry cleaners, right? What do we want them to see? Then they call us to get more information. What do we want them to hear? You know, how do we want them to be greeted? The clothes come in. What do we want to happen? So on and so forth. And that culture of that's really what we're all about, is every touch point you have with us, we want to be different. We want to be better than your traditional experience. And so that's really what that kind of piece of the culture we're really explicit about, so that people who are franchisees, if you're not bought into that, then you're probably not just going to be interested in being a Mulberries franchisee, right?
Right. So. It's so highly detailed. It's this value chain. When we look at every touch point with the client, then it's easier to identify when something goes wrong, what went wrong.
Exactly. And I think that's more true today than it ever has been, in the sense that there are so many ways that people can access you or hear about you now, that it's so easy to have a slip up in that chain, right?
Sure.
You know, I mean, somebody looks you up online and has a bad website experience. They're just out, right? Right away, out. And so,
true.
So making sure that whole pipeline, that whole funnel feels good to the consumer is number one to us. And then, of course, understanding that is number one in our franchisees.
Right. Well, the brilliance too is that in our case, their customers are so less tolerant now of bad service.
Right. Yes.
And you're separating yourself from the pack. I mean, let's face it, the bar in your industry, it sounds like, is fairly low.
It certainly has been
to blow people away.
Yeah.
Yeah, traditionally it's been kind of easy to blow away people's experiences. Of course,
Yes.
that's going to change over time.
Yep.
Something like a Mulberries is going to really kind of encourage new competitors down the road. It happens to all of our businesses,
Yep.
where people see what we're doing and they go, wow, this is incredible. I want to be involved in something like this. Hopefully they become a franchisee though of Mulberries.
Yeah, that's what we hope for. Come be a franchisee. Come join us.
Yeah. What's the investment range to open that one location? And then how does it work as they're going to expand out and buy that entire region?
Yeah. So it's essentially $1 million proposition, because you've got to build out that cleaning facility and that storefront and then the delivery routes. And so once you go all in on that, that's sort of the high end of the spectrum. Obviously you can be lower, but you have to have the capability of doing that.
Then do you expect with those satellite?
Exactly. So that's going to service 10 to 15 locations, right? And so you're sort of putting your stake in the ground, and then each individual location is only about $75,000 to $100,000. So you sort of put your foothold with the flagship in the region, and then from there it's all smaller investments.
Okay, Dan, what's been maybe something in this franchise process that surprised you, or you weren't expecting this?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that surprised me is how important it is, what Kirk was talking about in terms of the alignment of franchisor and franchisee. I think it would be easier as a franchisor if you just said, I'm just going to take checks and I don't really care who does this, right?
Right.
But I think, and I mean, I'd love to hear your opinion, but my take is that doing it slower and doing it right is better for everyone.
Oh, hell yeah.
Than just taking people who aren't going to make it or aren't going to be happy, and then getting burned later.
Absolutely. And let's face it, when you're starting out in franchising, you want to sell a franchise. That's why you got into the business, is to grow. And it's really, really, really hard to turn down that first check.
Exactly.
But more times than not, you don't even know what the hell you're doing as a franchisor. You don't even know what a good or bad franchisee, when I say good or bad, what I mean is the right fit. You don't even know what that looks like until after you've already have them in your system.
Yep.
And then after doing it for a while, you realize, oh, okay, now I kind of know what a person should be like that fits well with me. Ultimately, what the conclusion I came to, Dan and Kirk, I don't know if you probably might feel the same way, is that on discovery day, that's often as good as it ever gets in terms, it's like a job interview.
Right.
And I don't mean that it goes downhill from here, but in other words, if you're starting to see some red flags during discovery day, like wake up during discovery day. If you're seeing red flags, it only gets worse from here. The person they're at their best in discovery day. And ultimately the litmus test for me is, would I want to go to dinner with this person? Would I invite them to my home on Thanksgiving? Because you're going to be in business with them for many, many years. And if you're not clicking on this, you're not on all cylinders, you guys aren't kind of vibing together, it is going to go sideways at the least amount of friction.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And that I think is what surprised me, right? Was you kind of think of it as like, oh, we have this product, it's our franchise, and it's a no-brainer. It works well. It's growing fast. You're making a lot of money. We're going to have franchisees who want to do this and are a perfect fit. And then to your point, exactly, it's just one of those things where you look at it and you say, okay, is this a good partnership? And that's just more complicated than I think people realize. I think people from the outside would think franchising is easy, right?
And they think it's the short cut to growth.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that couldn't be any more wrong.
Exactly.
It is not the shortcut to growth.
Exactly.
It is the long game.
Exactly.
It is strictly the long game.
Exactly.
Kirk, what do you got?
So I'm curious as to when a new franchisee comes on board, and clearly, you support them really well, and you've talked about that already. How is there any help in terms of marketing or getting customers through the door or even to their door in either case, right? And for example, Frank, I think you need a new dry cleaners, not because I'm looking at your shirt, of course, but because you said about your cleaner not being with a cigarette butt.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is, can we get a franchise? Can we get a Mulberries franchise in Tampa for Frank? And how are they going
Please.
to get Frank as a customer? How would you help a franchisee do that?
Dan, my dry cleaner closes at 5 o'clock, by the way.
Exactly. Of
And
course I do.
they claim same day, but they don't open till 9. And then they say you could have it tomorrow because it's too late. So I can't get there before you open and get it same day. Then
It's a real catch-22.
What are we doing here?
Exactly. So I'm actually glad you asked that question. That is a huge point of differentiation for us. And we believe really one of our competitive advantages for the long run is we have spent a massive amount of time, energy, and money on marketing technology. Because particularly with artificial intelligence, right? The amount of ability we have to target customers and remarket to them is second to none. And your average dry cleaning laundry business, may or may not do any marketing at all, right? They put up the sign and that's it. Whereas we are able to, essentially match potential customers with our current customer base. And not everybody does dry cleaning and laundry, right? So it's super important when you're marketing to make sure you can target people effectively. And that's a monster advantage that our franchisees have, is we're able to target people who actually are interested in dry cleaning and laundry, which is a real spectrum of people. It's probably more diverse than you would expect. But we're able to do that. And that's a huge advantage for us.
This is what I love about business so much, is that regardless of the brand, look, we're talking about using AI, using technology, talking business strategy, client experience. It has nothing to do with the actual product or service. Yet when somebody, I'm sure a potential franchisee, says to their friend or family member, "Oh, I'm thinking of opening up a dry cleaning franchise."
Yeah.
That friend or family member says, "Dry cleaning? Well, why do you want to do that?" Or sports? Why? How are you going to make money in sports? Or kids?
Right.
You don't want to do that kind of business. Like, they have no idea. That has nothing to do with that product or service. It's the delivery of it. It's the strategy. All those things you're doing is truly different.
100%. It's funny you bring that up, because it reminds me of when I, told people I was quitting my consulting job to start a dry cleaner. I got pretty much that same reaction.
Of course you did. What did you tell them?
I told them I told them I was going to take a leave of absence from my job to investigate the dry cleaning and laundry industry, and they all thought I was insane. And the one thing I told them was, which actually worked, was I said to them, because of course everybody had a million reasons why I shouldn't do it, right?
Oh, at least a million.
Yeah, but the one thing I told them that I'd almost say any entrepreneur should say is, I said to them, "So do you think the way that the dry cleaning and laundry industry operates currently is the absolute best we can do?"
Oh, I like that.
Because obviously it wasn't. And it still isn't, right?
Sure.
But because if your answer to that question is no, then that means there's an opportunity. And I believe that in every business. If you look at an industry and say, that's not operating the way it should, or it's a little awkward or funky or clunky, that means there's a business opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a business that is not going to be replaced by AI.
Right. That's for sure. It's just it's actually being helped by AI. So,
Frank, I came onto this podcast before I did my research and knew we was interviewing you, and said it was from the dry cleaning from a dry cleaning franchise, and I admit that I didn't really know what to do with that, because I was like, I don't really know if I'm going to relate to this.
Yeah.
But then I started looking at your site, and as I said, my experience of the site is so good, and your knowledge of the industry and your knowledge of how to make clients feel. And this is one of the things I got from you. You know how to make clients feel. And I think that's so important. And and I think that's so important when you're franchising as well, is teaching that to others, to teach how to make someone feel and solve their problems. That's kind of what they're buying. And I think in this industry, yeah, I wish we had a Mulberries. My wife would love you. Like, it would be amazing for her. Yeah.
Where are you located?
So we're in between US and UK, but right now I'm sitting just outside of Cambridge in the UK.
So Tampa and Cambridge, those are the next franchises.
Duly noted, Dan.
There you go.
An unorthodox growth strategy, but
whatever it takes, man. Next 5 to 10 years, where do you think the brand is going?
I mean, our goal is to be the leading premium, sustainable dry cleaning and laundry franchise in the country. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, what we'd like to do is steadily but smartly grow into every major market in the US. That would be where we'd like to be. And then, of course, at some point, we'd like to do international expansion, but we want to do it right at home and then go from there.
Do you have a development schedule on where you want to be? I mean, obviously you've already jumped from coast to coast here, but do you still want to do that, grow nationwide out, or do you want to start regionally? I went shotgun approach coast to coast because I wanted to be first to market. So it was more challenging that way, but it sounds like you're kind of going in that direction.
I think, I guess shotgun approach is probably, we're just opportunistic. I mean, I think the way we think about it is we want to be in major markets, but we want franchisees who are going to succeed, right? And so wherever, we're not going to just go to Dallas if we don't feel like we have a good partner in Dallas, right? And so that's really the key for us is we just want to keep being successful. So
yeah, and I agree with you. When I say I did the shotgun approach, my philosophy was the prospect was most important.
Yes.
Not necessarily I knew I was going to go nationwide.
Yeah.
I also, in my business, I knew I needed to be first to market. I didn't know how long of a runway I was going to have before people like Kirk came along and we were going to start running sports programs. So I had to hurry up. But I was really looking for people who were the best possible candidate.
Yep.
And that meant more to me than anything else.
I think that's almost good universal wisdom, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, for franchisors.
Well, I wish I always picked the best possible people, but I didn't know what I was looking for either. But hey, it was my own doing too. I think for me too, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your franchisees. My franchise owners, I didn't know who was going to be the best franchise owner. I thought it was people who, in my case, loved kids and sports. And I could have seen being in your business as a much younger man saying, ooh, I want somebody who's really passionate about dry cleaning.
Right.
And we know it has nothing to do with dry cleaning.
Yeah.
But as it relates to your business, is it the owner operator regional person, or is it a business person that understands scale and expansion? Like, who is that right kind of person for your brand?
Yep. So the way I think about it is the perfect person is somebody who can float up and down. And what I mean by that is somebody who is comfortable enough with rolling up their sleeves that they can understand how the dry cleaning and laundry operation runs. Not saying they're pressing shirts every day, right? But they're not panicked at the sign of like a machine breaking,
Right.
But then also somebody who can toggle into that customer experience piece. And the thing I've found on that, which is unique, is there's actually some research on this, but that is almost a hardwired trait. There are people who are, naturally empathetic like they just care about what people's experience are. And there are people who just don't. And you can't, like, somebody who does not care, you cannot teach them to care. It's just hardwired. And so that's the number one thing is with our franchises, they care. They get a bad review, or they, have a customer who has something go wrong. They care, right? And that's whereas if you don't, then we're dead in the water. So,
can I just ask a question to both of you, actually? Did you do any kind of personality? Do you do any Frank? Did you do any personality testing? Dan, have you done that?
Yeah, we've done some of that. there's a sort of, an online or a quiz or that we've given
Yeah.
to people. I think that's only good for weeding out the disasters. Like,
I agree 100%. I agree.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the behavioral assessment tools aren't going to tell you that they're going to be a great franchisee, but
Yeah.
it will tell you if they're not a right fit, which is sort of like being the house in the casino.
yes.
I mean, you get the edge. If you know that they're not going to be a right fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of predictive index and culture index.
Yeah.
And so it'll test things like basically, you know, how assertive they'll be, or how outgoing, how patient and impatient they are, and how formal or informal, i.e. following the rules or not. And so if you find somebody who is, you know, not going to be aggressive, they're introverts, they're very, very patient, and they don't like following rules, is that going to be a disaster? Of course.
Right.
So if that person happened to have had those attributes, now, of course, I'm extreme. It's very rare to find somebody with all four of those traits.
The grand slam of bad traits.
If those were the traits, Dan, right, that would not be a good person for our franchise. You'd probably say, it looks like based on, you know, this assessment tool, and, you know, it's only one part of it, I don't think you'd be a right fit for our brand. And so you don't reject them outgoingly because of the behavioral assessment tool, but you start to paint the picture of what it really takes to succeed in the business, thus making them uncomfortable you make them out of their comfort zone by telling them what it really takes. And then they start to self-select themselves out, right, Dan?
Yeah, we've had a couple of great candidates who really were more wanted to be standalone entrepreneurs than franchisees. And we had to tell them, I don't think you're going to be happy here, you know, because you're going to be following the Mulberries playbook. You look like you want to create your own playbook in some business.
Yeah, like, or if they came to your office and said, I love Mulberries, but I want to add a new service. Like, I think this is great. What about this? And what about that? Yeah. Like, the more services you're throwing at me, the more afraid I'm getting.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that's hard to do for on both sides, right? To just realize this isn't the perfect fit, right? So
yeah.
And
having the courage to tell them this is not a right opportunity for both of us.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's not easy. No, it isn't. But Dan, right now, so tell me, why is now a great time for franchisees to join your system?
Yeah. So I think three things come to mind. I mean, number one, we're growing, and we've kind of hit that critical mass where obviously we're in 4 states now, and we're ready to grow quickly into other regions. Number two, I think it's sort of a magical time in the dry cleaning and laundry space, believe it or not, because two forces are coming together. Number one is dry cleaning and laundry is coming back. After COVID, as you can imagine, was a dry cleaning and laundry disaster because everybody was staying at home, right? But what we're seeing, and it's showing pretty clearly in the data, is, you know, people are steadily dripping back to work now, right? And going out more. And so we're seeing that trend. But a lot of the dry cleaners, the sort of low performing dry cleaners, have been wiped out, right? Which is obviously sad from a general business perspective, but good from a Mulberries perspective. And then the other piece is people are outsourcing home services way more than they used to, right? One of the things we see is more and more people are just giving us their laundry. They're just done with laundry, period. They're saying to themselves, wait, why am I spending my Saturday doing laundry? Mulberries is already here picking up my shirts. I might as well just give them the whole thing. And so those two trends are coming together where you've got more, you know, formal dress, and then more people outsourcing their laundry or like cleaning their sheets and that kind of stuff. And so we're seeing, you know, double-digit growth rates in that area, which is obviously great for the franchisees. And then I think the third piece is that with people's, you know, increasing comfort with just delivery services in general, that has changed the market for being a dry cleaning franchisee, right? It used to be you had your store and you had your local market of whatever it is, 3 miles around, and nobody can go further. Whereas now, because of our model, you're essentially have access to as far as you're willing to drive, right? On a delivery basis, which takes you from being a local franchisee with a 1 unit to a regional franchisee, which makes the upside for you. It's not just a nice kind of buying yourself a job. It's a a wealth changer. So
Awesome. Dan, I love your business, and I love any business that's in a fragmented industry.
yes.
And you guys are absolutely in a fragmented industry of mom and pop businesses. And this may be anecdotal, but I almost feel like there's like a changing of the guard. There's an old, it's almost like that whole generation of baby boomers that owned a dry cleaning business, don't have people that they're going to want to buy their business, and their kids don't want to take over. This is an any business that we're dealing, right? Where we're seeing this golden age now of businesses that are going to become for sale with no buyers.
Yep.
And you have an opportunity to kind of fill that slot of being this new way of delivering a great customer experience when that old changing guard has been doing it the way they've always done, and nobody wants their business.
You're so right. It is a changing of the guard in the industry. It's really interesting to watch. And that's actually one of the things we offer to our franchisees is we can do conversions as well. There are some great dry cleaning and laundry businesses which have the bones there, right? They might have a great location, they might have some good equipment. We can convert that to a Mulberries, whip it into shape, as it were, and bring in the new technology. And the person's buying an existing business, they can get an SBA loan, right? And then layer on the Mulberries brand, and you get that kind of step change in growth.
Awesome. Well, Dan, if someone was interested in opening a Mulberries, where would they go?
Mulberriescleaners.com/franchise. You can also email us franchise@mulberriescleaners.com and follow up with you right away.
Awesome. Dan, I look forward to you guys opening in Tampa someday,
Yes.
and in the Cambridge, UK.
Great to meet you,
Absolutely.
Dan.
Hey, now.
Great to meet you, Dan.
Dan, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Wish you continued success.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and thanks for just everything you're doing, just for sharing the stories of franchises.
Oh, well,
Dan, I've got one last question for you.
Yes.
Okay. One last question, because I'm not sure you've been following this, but Frank has read most books.
No, he hasn't.
What we like to do, we like traditions also, is there a book that you've read that's really inspired you in your business journey?
The answer is many. I would say one of my favorites, and I'm going to butcher the name. I think it's called The Everything Store, but it's the story of Jeff Bezos starting Amazon. Just because, and the reason that was so inspiring to me is, he literally started out in the garage packaging up books, and he was literally like selling them at a loss. He was like finding books at the bookstore and then repackaging them and mailing them out. And I just love that story because I think it's a microcosm for what it takes as an entrepreneur, right? You have to be, you can't be above anything, right? You have to be willing to say, whatever I got to do to get this thing going, I'm going to do. So
Even if it caused you to fall backwards in ice and hit your head.
Nice. Exactly. So The
Awesome.
Everything Store, I think that's right.
Love it. I haven't read it. I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
And Kirk, just for the record, no, I have not read that book. You happy now?
What, Dan, you've created a thirst. That's
Found a hole in the system.
And Kirk and I have got a little bit of banter about the book thing.
I can tell.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on today's show. I appreciate it and wish you all the best.
It was a blast.
Thanks,
Take care.
Dan.
Thanks,
Dan.
guys.
Bye.
See you. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation of obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.